a little welcome to my latest Zoomcast. John Abendroth here, PGA golf professional, and I have a wonderful guest today. And just a couple little housekeeping things. I want to thank Original Joe's of Westlake for some sponsorship in
What a
Daly City.
restaurant. Love that place.
There you
Love
go.
that.
Nick loves it. So that's a good endorsement. And don't forget about their weekend brunch. As I like to say, it's in the golf neighborhood right near the Olympic Club and TPC Harding Park, Lake Merced, in that little great triangle of fabulous golf courses. And joining me today, Nick Chertock, a CPA. I don't know if I've ever had a CPA on one of my golf broadcasts, but welcome, Nick, and glad we could connect today.
Yeah, kind of weird. I know there's always an explanation to have to give of why you have an accountant on talking about golf. But hopefully I'll make it make sense to people. But man, Westlake Joe's I think is the best spot for a Manhattan on a cold evening after a round of golf. And I've had many occasions to drive out to play at one of those courses that you mentioned, and there's a Burger King around there where I've pulled in to change into golf clothes to play
It,
golf. It's pretty close to the Westlake Joe's.
it's across the street. So
I
yeah,
bet you there's a lot of golfers who have changed in that parking lot there. And I was watching the uh, the Good Golf crew. They did a series a couple years ago where they were coming to California and they were playing all these California courses. And guess where they pull up? To that Burger King in the parking lot to change to get ready to play. I think they were playing Olympic, but I think they probably played all the courses around there.
very
But
funny.
a lot of memories of Westlake Joe's. Glad it's still open.
Yeah, good stuff. Nick, you have a great golf history that you've created, and it started with what you called golf progress, and it was basically you wanting to improve your handicap and improve your game, and you started sort of logging it in on social media. Where did your handicap start when that was your goal?
Yeah, initially I was right about a 15 or a 16 index, maybe a 14. And I had a very specific goal. And this was all pre social media. Maybe Twitter had just started. Um, Definitely Facebook was not around, or at least wasn't accessible to a non college student at the time. But my goal was, hey, I'm every I'm Joe, everyman golfer who has kids, kind of average. I've always wanted to get better, but I've been at this plateau forever, and I just want to explore the whole process and share it and just document it. So I was trying to get to a 7 index by age 40, which at the time that would have been coming into 2015. I'm almost 50 now. And so I did, I got my index down. It got it under 10 for a little bit. So I was in the single digits if you count, if you don't round up. I think I was at about a 9.6 or
Okay,
9.7. Ultimately, I got distracted by what we'll talk about later, which is creating communities for golf pros. I was into Facebook early on in Facebook groups, and I created this Facebook group based on all the people I had met through the video blogging. It was really an era of when I met you, and I remember we played Olympic Lake the day that they unveiled the new greens. Do you remember that? That
sure.
helped us figure out the timing. I think that might have been around 2006 or seven, something like that.
Probably about right. Yeah.
And I remember we played number one hole. You hit your drive left, or no, you hit your second shot left, pretty much in the woods with about maybe 60 yards left to the hole, and you hit a little wedge up in the air. Didn't really look at it. Ball went in the hole. I looked at you. You saw that it went in the hole. No reaction whatsoever. So just an everyday thing for you.
Wow.
Had to probably have the course record there at the time too. 62, right? Or is it
Yes, thank
63?
you. Enough
So
about me.
that was the era for me of blogging, video blogging. That was popular where you would connect with other bloggers. And so I was connecting with all these golf pros, and to me, I was gravitating toward the more technical side of it. I really liked the biomechanics and the trying to understand the movement patterns, and 3D was coming about. TPI had really just started. That was probably '06, '07, I'm thinking. And I hooked up with a golf pro named Terry Rolls, who was teaching right across the street from my office on Montgomery Street, downtown San Francisco.
Yep, I know Terry.
Meeting
Yeah,
him, you know Terry, and I know he ended up working at the Olympic Club for a while there, and he was kind of instrumental in Olympic Club setting up a new studio. And there's been other pros that have come in and worked in that studio,
yep.
but it was just a whole. I think a movement was taking place, and not everyone liked it, and still to this day, not everybody in golf instruction really appreciates or enjoys it. But science was coming into the game, the idea of fitness and your movement capabilities being a large determinant in terms of what you can do when you're trying to make a swing change. And so I was really very interested in all that and trying to bring all these people together. So there was this forum on Facebook called Golf Biomechanists, and a second one called Golf Teaching Professionals. They really grew very quickly to be and continue to be the biggest really communities on Facebook for that kind of information. And then a few years into that, we started talking about having a live event, like let's all get together and do something in person, which gave birth to what's called the Open Forum. So we do that the night before the PGA show starts in Orlando. This year it's January 21st at the Hyatt, right across the street from the actual trade show.
Right.
But all of it really came about from, I know that there's other people like me who trying to get better, limited on time, a little frustrated at the idea of why did I plateau early into my playing and then completely stop improving? What are the factors that lead into that? And I still to this day struggle with just my thesis of the entire blog, and it continues to be a belief I hold strongly to, is that when you start playing golf, you're terrible at it. You figure out a way to get the club on the ball and to kind of get it around the course a little bit. And the habits you develop when you went from not being able to play at all to being mediocre, they kind of lock you into being mediocre forever in most cases,
And,
which I.
and yeah, and talk about you've partnered with, I guess partnered with, but you do a lot of work with Chris Como, a name that many of us golfers would know. He's worked with a number of the top players. Talk about Chris a little bit, and talk about other player or coaches and teachers that you've had on the forum.
Yeah, so I met Chris. Chris reached out to me before, really, he was kind of an unknown pro. He was working in Dallas at the time. He was also pursuing a master's degree at Texas Women's University in biomechanics. I don't think he's ever finished that, but he was working on that. And this was before the first Open Forum. Uh, he was just a coach who was very interested in all the same topics that I was. And at the time, the forum was really hot. The forum kind of peaked out probably in about 2014, but there was a period there where that was like a hub for that kind of conversation. And so Chris and I became friends, and when the idea came up to do this live event, I thought, okay, who better to be a moderator of this than a young pro who's very intelligent and is interested in all these academic areas and knew lots of people that I didn't know who were outside of golf, who maybe in the world of sports psychology, motor learning science, other biomechanists who were just new to golf or had not been involved in golf. So Chris was in 2013 just a young pro when he was up there moderating the first Open Forum, probably 2/3 of the people in the room didn't know who he was. Fast forward a couple years later, Tiger picks him to be his consultant. He was really Tiger's last real golf coach. Before Open Forum 3, there was a lot happening with golf biomechanics. A guy named Dr. Kwan was he presented Open Forum 3, who Chris studied with. But if you want to know some of the pros that we've had, like at Open Forum 6, we had a panel that had Ledbetter was up there, Brandel Chambly. A lot of times we're trying to engineer a little bit of conflict. Civilized discourse is really what we're looking for. It's somewhat like a debating society that we've tried to form, where it's not just go there, listen to a speaker, ask a few questions, and that's it. There's a lot of interaction at the Open Forum.
And this year's number 11. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
It's amazing that something like this would sort of keep going with you being a CPA and 3,000 miles away from the Hyatt in Orlando. But congratulations on the 11th year.
Thank you. Yeah, we missed 2 years because of COVID. 1 year there was no PGA show. The next year I knew attendance was going to be down by 70%, so we didn't do it. But it's just fueled by my love for the game, really the interest that I have in the topics that get brought up there. My wife, it sounds like you've been talking to her, she would say, why do you keep doing this? Like, what is the point of it all? And it's just that I think golf is a unique game where you could go play around a golf and at the end be frustrated and think, why do I do this? Why do I spend this amount of time, money, anxiety that it gives me?
Time.
And then the next morning you wake up and you're like, you know what? I want to work on my grip in the mirror as I'm brushing my teeth. And it takes over you. And as you say, hooked on golf is a real thing. I got hooked on it probably in like 1992. And from that day forward, there's probably not a day goes by where I'm not just obsessing about how does this work? Why does this happen? And, a lot of it is about just myself. Like, why do I keep hitting this miss, or what is causing this problem in my golf swing?
Being joined by Nick Chertock. You can learn more at openforumgolf.com. And with I have a number of golf pros that would watch this, but also probably a high propensity of the average golfer, avid golfer. How do they participate, and can they is there a streaming version of this, or is there a video of your forum that they can look at afterwards?
Yeah, so if you go to the homepage, openforumgolf.com, there's a few ways that just a regular golfer who doesn't go out to Orlando, or even a golf pro who's West Coast based, and a lot of the California pros, they don't make it out there. They can either watch old events. You can pay to have access to the older videos. I haven't announced this yet, but for your audience, they can be aware that if they go to that homepage the day before the event, we'll be putting up a link to stream the event for free. It may be the last year we do this. We did it last year. I didn't tell anybody that there was going to be a stream. I didn't really want to eat into our signups. And I kind of announced it quietly about an hour before the event. And at the end of the night, I was told by the person looking at the stream that we had about 3,500 people at one time watching it. So there.
And what date would that be that they could click into that?
January 21st. It's Tuesday night. It's going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern, so 2 o'clock Pacific. So if you're either, maybe you're a teaching pro who loves the technical side, maybe you're just a golf nut who wants to see who's speaking, and also there's a lot of new products that get discussed and demonstrated. So the early part of the night for this upcoming event is a lot of live instruction on stage, using some new tools. Some of that is just to get the sponsors some exposure, but a lot of it is really to try to make it practical for the coaches in the room to see, here's how you actually use these tools with a real human being, and keep things pretty organic where you don't feel like, oh, my golf pro is now behind a computer and is not really connecting to me as a person. So it's a little bit of the open forum has always been to show that technology can be brought into golf instruction without just ruining it and making it and taking the humanity out of it. For anybody who wants to stream it, that link will go up. Look for that, starting probably Monday afternoon. Top of the page, you'll just see, it'll just say click here to stream the live event.
Well, Nick, I appreciate your time chatting about this, and I just think it's really fabulous that you take, your passion for golf, you're wanting to, as you called it, golf progressing your own game, and then you turn it into this, which is in the world of golf, it's a real unique kind of a treasure. So, really hearty congratulations on it, and to get, guys like Ledbetter and Chambly and others, really fabulous. So I'm not going to be at Orlando, but I'll certainly mark my calendar to do the stream on the 21st, and pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and I just got confirmation from Chris, who was talking to Jim McLean. This year's the 30th anniversary of the X Factor article in Golf Digest, and over that time, I would say there's been a combination of people studying it, also criticizing it or misinterpreting it. So we're going to give Jim McLean the opportunity to get up, talk a little bit about the history of that article and the aftermath of it. And then over the years, let him address where he believes he's probably been misquoted and misinterpreted. And so that's kind of the overall theme of the night, is looking at what really drives the pivot in the golf swing, very full swing oriented topic for this year, looking at it through a couple different lenses. So for the average golfer who doesn't really get into anything technical, it might be kind of heavy material, but we see it as a way to elevate the instruction profession and really kind of move things forward. And so thanks for having me on, John. Really appreciate it. And hopefully people check it out.
Yeah, great. And again, to catch this or other interviews I've done, Gary Player, Dave Stockton, Rocco Mediate, and others, hookedongolf.com, or my channel on YouTube, John Abendroth. So great to hook up with you again, Nick, and we'll stay in touch.
All righty, John. You take care.